Welcome to the daily Torah class. We are learning Yalkut Yosef, Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, of Isra Achila Shtia Kaidem Atfila. It's very applicable to every person. All the laws of the morning regarding eating before davening, and so let's begin. Isra Achila Shtia Kaidem Atfila. Asur lachol lishtos kodem tefillah shachris. It is forbidden for a person to eat or drink before he davens shachris. Mishum shneimar lo tochlu al adam. It says in a pasuk, a person should not eat upon his blood. V'darshu Chazal. And what does that mean? So Chazal was darish that pasuk. Lo tochlu kodem shtispalu al damchem, al dimchem. You should not eat before you pray. A person has to pray upon his blood. So just to expound on that person, there's a Indian that you have to pray for your life at the start of the day, start of the morning. So if a person goes ahead and eats, before I know there's other shitas like Chabad or Lubavitch that they're makel. They have different shita that you have to daven with more of a simcha. Okay, but Hamona, the regular Halacha and Musar Shulchan Aruch, especially for Sfaradim, would be that it's not allowed. And why not? Because the person gets up, he has to ask for mercy. Hashem gave you a life, he gave you breath of life. First thing a Yid does is that. So if a person Chas Shalom eats, then he's showing derech gaiva, that I'm more important than Rebbeinu Shalom. Right? So you have to pray that Hashem should keep you alive. Pasha. T'chei nema etzel Yeravam ben Nevat, right? You know, in Tanakh, says by him, Yeravam, ve'osi hishlachta achrei goyecha, and you have sent me after your nation. Al tikri goyecha ela geyecha. So now we're expanding. Chazal is darish from there that don't read it just goyecha, but geyecha. You can also take that word and pronounce it as, even though the letters are different, it's goyecha, but you can pronounce it as geyecha. Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Lachash nizgah zeh b'achil shtia. After Yeravam ben Nevat was a Rasha to begin with, he showed gaiva with achil shtia. He didn't daven. Balakabel of all malchus shemayim. Now he wanted to do tshuva and be makabel all malchus shemayim. You know, he did tshuva, I believe, but and it was accepted. So we see that there's a derech gaiva. There's a certain gaiva with eating and drinking before you put Hashem to start your day, before you put the purpose why you're here, and before you introduce tefillah. And that is in Brachos, Yod Amud Beis. Come on, Brachos. Mikol Makom, however, nonetheless, Moter Lishtos Mayim Kodem Atfila. It's permitted for a person to drink water before Shachas. She'ein shayich bahem gaiva. There is no such, concept of gaiva by such, I would say, essentials like water. Not showing that you're a big shy. You're not showing that you're bal gaiva, like having a feast or something. Water is essential. Okay? V'chein muter lishtos Here we have kafe or tea gam im sukar. Say it more Israeli. Kafe or tea gam im sukar kodem atfilah. So it's also mutter to have coffee and tea with sugar before one davens. Chiddush. What are you thinking?
Gaiva, maybe.
Maybe not. Bitachon Yosef, Shulchan Yalkut Yosef here. Halacha and Musar, yes, you're right. ובפרט סוכרין שאינו מזין, and especially sugar that doesn't satiate a person.
ואין בו משום גאווה כלל.
There is no gaiva by sugar. אפילו בשבת מותר לשתות קפה או תה עם סוכר קודם תפילת שחרית. Even on Shabbos, you're allowed to make a coffee and tea with sugar before you daven.
שעדיין לא חל.
Because it still didn't come intact the obligation of kiddush. שאין kiddush אלא במקום סעודה. You only do kiddush by סעודה. ואי-אפשר לעשות קודם תפילת שחרית. And like we said, you can't have a סעודה, of course, before daven. וכן המנהג פשוט אצל העומדים בבית השם בלילות. Simple. It's
people will have a
minhag to stay up Friday night. Lomar Bakasha is Tehillim to say the Bakashot is very prominent in Israel. A lot of Yidden stay up at Friday. Like Friday night, okay? Say Bakasha or Tehillim. Lishtot te o kafe im sukar. You're allowed to drink tea or coffee with sugar. Even if the sun started coming up, we have alot hashachar, and you would think it's already day. No, it's still mutar because it's not gada. It's not. So that's the chidush. The chidush is you might think it is. No, water, tea, and coffee are not bichlal gaiva before Hashem.
וכן בימי הסליחos.
Days of slichos, shotim, te o kafe im sukar, kodem tefila shacharit. It's also acceptable. V'yesh lahem mamash yismochu, they can rely and they have what to rely on. V'im halacha rofefes v'yadecha, if it's still not clear in your hands. Se or he chatzibu noagim v'nahuken. Not sure why he says this line. It's Rav Yitzchak Yosef, and if he's saying it, of course, it's of a lot of importance. He says, go and look at the minhag. Obviously, you can't live off minhagim, but sometimes he feels it's important to go ahead and see the inyan this, that if you can have coffee or tea before you daven shachris, he says, go out and see how the shuls operate. You'll see people making coffees, and you shouldn't say, oh, there's gaiva, maybe coffee is a chash for drink, or no. Halacha and Musar, we don't play games. You're allowed to have your coffee before you're done shachris.
Let's get more into that
Topic about coffee before shachris. Rabim ha'achronim mekilim lishtos kafe hamazug imat chalav. A lot of achronim are makel even to have coffee mixed with a little bit of milk. דווקא לשתות כוס חלב באין יש להחמיר. It's דווקא to drink
just pure
milk, right?
that does have gaiva.
Okay. מה שאין כן בקפה, something you don't find by coffee, שיש בו מעט חלב יש להקל.
Okay, יש חולקים מחמירים
בזה. Some are arguing and are machmer even the Indian coffee with a little bit of milk.
So he first comes out and says,
Yes, you can have a little bit of milk in the coffee. Why? Because it's not nicker. It's not nicker to a person like a total glass of milk. that is nikr. Obviously, it's derech gaila, but he just wants to soothe and, right? Wants to
mix the coffee a little bit, just
just like with sugar. He wants also some milk. So it seems to be okay.
however. Venira, and
It
it's
seems sheyesh lahakel bazel adam chalash. He throws out there, especially regarding someone who's weak. A lot of people, they don't get their nutrients. They wake up, they're weak. Fine. ומכל מקום ראינו שקודם לכן יברך ברכות השחר ברכות התורה. However, it's right, it's fit for a person to do ברכות השחר, should say bracha, ברכות השחר, and ברכות התורה. בפרשת העקדה, and even the פרשת העקדה, הוא קצת מסדר הקורבנות, ואז ישתה הקפה במזיגת חלב. A little bit of seder karbanos. Then he's freed up. Like he's able to go ahead because now he put Hashem, right? This is the beauty of it. That he's putting Hashem first. He did Birkas Shachar. He did Parshas Akeda. He did a little bit of Seder Karbanos. Now you feel good. Everything's in a balance. In Halacha, everything is balanced. That we don't do extremes. That's the whole meaning of our religion. Everything in life is balanced, so you can have prosperous and happy lifestyle. And it's proven.
person does a little bit.
He says that for sure is necessary. Okay.
This seems to be halacha l'maaseh.
And I don't know if you're allowed to drink your coffee with milk if you didn't daven already at least Birkas HaShachar and did Birkas HaTorah. So she says it's a great point to raise that we should be careful to do Birkas HaShachar and Birkas HaTorah at least before you have the coffee with milk. And then he says another point that he says a little bit of milk. So there's many ways to approach that. First of all, what's the scale, right? Where's the parameters? And additionally, how do you, let's say a person wants a latte, right? He wants a cappuccino. Is that called a lot of milk? Or like does it depend on the beverage, or does it depend on how much in a cup? So the exact parameters are not given. You should contact your local rabbi, Orthodox rabbi, and clear up for yourself your morning routine so that it's in par with halacha. Any questions? What did I say?
What's with
We
spoke about regular milk. What about oat milk?
So these days, of course, the great blessings of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, blessed with oat milk, with all types of alternatives to milk. So it's a good question. And I would say from here that there's no difference. Milk, juice, oat milk, every type of alternative or any type of juice, you're not allowed to drink purely that has gaiva because it doesn't fall into this essentials of water, coffee, and tea. Again, I'm not sure if coffee and tea is because it's an essential or like nowadays or just because of some other reason he's not clear here. However, that's halacha ma'aseh. Now you want to take other things, that purely is usher. I would say you can't obviously. Let's say he wants to do a juice with his coffee. I don't know. It's very weird, but let's say a person would enjoy that. Usher, you know. It says something that's doable. And for milk alternatives, that would be the same Indian of milk, and that would be fine to mix with your coffee. Again, he says if you daven Birkas HaShachar. So that seems to be that parameter. Yeah. Okay.
How about Starbucks had a drink? I don't know if they still have it. They would put olive oil in the coffee. Would that be permitted to drink or no?
Massive. I didn't know that, but okay.
I would say us.
says sugar, it's more of a staple, it's more something that makes sense. That seems to have derech gaiva. What are you putting olive oil now? You need olive oil in your coffee, or some chashuv guy? Kadosh Baruch Hu is first. We're only, a person has to look at it very simply. Everything's awesome. We just matter water. And now for some reason we matter coffee and tea. Again, I'm not sure the point. Maybe it's because it's essential to nowadays and it's going to help him in his tefillah. Or for some alternative reason. However, what we do know is that's halacha, and you have to understand that everything is really in place, that Hashem is first, He's first, He's giving you life, you gotta appreciate it. Talk to Borei Olam, and then have whatever you want to eat. Okay, everybody's there? Okay. Alright. Ochlim umashkim therefore. Talking about medications. Okay? Mutar la'ochlam v'lishtosam kodem hatfilah. It's permitted for a person to eat or drink a medication before davening. Share'eina ose zos derech gaiva. He's not doing. There's no mishum gaiva here. Ela refuah be'alma. Comes up a lot in life. A person has morning medications, certain types, right? Comes up a lot. Are you allowed to? Is there? So there's no inyan of gaiva. Ve'afal pi, and even though she'eno chola gamer, person, even though it's not fully, like, totally sick, mutter. You don't have to be so sick. A person who's takes certain medications. It's very common. So it's mutter. V'atzame v'harae, person who's thirsty and hungry, harbe, very much. Hare, if he's very thirsty or hungry, harehem bichlal hacholim, they are included in somebody who's sick. She'im yesh bahem yicholes lechaven da'atam yispalu kodem shiyochel. Now, if he's able to have yeshua, like peace of mind, and focus on davening, you should for sure daven. You can't eat. The imlav, and if you can't, imirtzu al yispalu ad sheyochlu v'yishtu.
Okay, if you can't do it.
He's too weak.
You won't be able to be
Mechaven in the tefillah. He can go ahead and eat and drink.
That's just a kind of a forward.
We're going to see more about that. Ulam, however, cholesh shekashe lo leleches lispal beis hakneses. It's very tough for this person to go and daven in shul. Belo shito mashu kodem sheitzeh, without eating first, to taste something. The mispala b'veiso, if he davens at home, yuchal isbal b'lo shiochal kodem tefillah. Comes up. It's hard to get to shul. There's a little bit of a commute, right? So if he stays at home, he'll be very much able to daven without eating. What's better? Should he go and eat first to enable him to go and daven a good tefillah? Or should he just stay at home and daven b'chilus, but he's going to not be over on that inyan of eating or drinking before shachas?
So, adif sheisha.
Shar beveiso bispalel b'chilus.
It's better that he stays
in his home and davens b'chilus. Asher yochal kodem atfilah.
Yes, if he says it's better, be at home. Be
rather than going ahead and eating before the tefillah. V'chol ha'shiyachol espalel gam b'li le'achol. Sick person that's able to daven without eating. Ein yochel chaven b'tefillah so.
but he's
Not able to concentrate. Ela im ken yochal kodem tefillah. Ve'ose chen rak letzorach hakavana.
he's not gonna
Not gonna have good kavana if he doesn't eat. Ve'ose chen rak letzorach hakavana. He just wants to eat for his benefit of the kavana. Yesh mi she'omer b'shebizman hazeh adif she'spala bli kavana. Some say go ahead and daven without kavana. Don't be over. However,
that's only a case where
he doesn't need to eat before the tefillah. So this is more complex. It's getting more in deep. Nachash yesh omim she'isr achila kodem atfila hu min haTorah. So this whole inyan, we didn't raise that the fact that is it derabanan or is it min haTorah? Some say it's the isser of eating and drinking is before Shabbos is a isser d'oraisa min haTorah. Some say it's only derabanan. So which one? Uladina. Now it goes more the halacha. In Yitzhak le'echol kedei lechaven. If he wants to eat just to have kavana, gam bizman hazer v'shay le'echol etzorach hakavana.
you can eat even nowadays.
Wow. Be'im Yitzhak v'spal b'lo achila gam ken v'shay. If he wants, he can also go ahead and daven, even though he might not have the right kavana, the best.
Ach kol zeh
באופן שיודע בבירור שמניעת האכילה היא הגורמת לו שאינו יכול לכוון. He has a big factor. It's in parentheses, but it's a big time thing. He has to know. And who knows nowadays what's going to cause his lack of kavanah. So his whole thing is really kind of out the window because of that line and because we know in halacha also that nowadays we don't have such kavanah like we used to. Nothing's going to really get you a good kavanah level. And certainly not if it's Suffolk Isser Deraisa here. It says straight up, if he knows, I don't know how you can know, let's say, I'm not sure how, but if in a case where the guy knows that not eating and drinking is going to be gairim, is going to cause, he's not going to have good kavanah, he knows that that's why he's not going to have kavanah, and if he eats and drinks, he will have kavanah, okay, you're allowed to. Aval him bilavachi, if without this, ain't a ragil chavin, he's anyway not really used to having kavanah like he should.
or like he would like to.
V'achiloso lo tazor lo lechavin, his eating is not going to help him. B'badi she'en lehakil b'zeh, of course, you're not allowed to be making. Okay, questions on this? So that was the Indian Machayla. What comes out, Bosai? Bosai, what comes out? Person, he wants to have medication, either food or drink, he's allowed. Noted. Now what about, we know in halacha, Sameh and a rab, person who's thirsty and hungry to a large extent, is included in a chola. Whatever. He's a chola. So are you allowed to? He says it looks like you can. And then the certain parameters kind of guide us to know that he has to definitely know that the factor of why he cannot have kavanah is because he didn't eat or drink. If that is compromised and he anyway will not have kavanah, even if he does eat and drink, and it's pasha that is asr. Second. We're doing Musar. The guy at Chavrusa is trying to ditch, but Tanis it's enough. I don't think so. At least we should do some Musar. So. You listen, right? Binyamin Chavrusa, so he's gonna listen. So. יש לו על מה יסמוך. יש להם על מה לסמוך. Sagt der Heilige Beis HaLevi, we're learning Mamar Bitachon from the Baal Beis HaLevi, the classic essay of Hagon Rabbi Yosef Dov Soloveitchik of Brisk. Okay. With commentary and insights by Rabbi David Sutton. Opens a very powerful line. Beis HaLevi, he starts his essay
and
goes ahead and makes a very powerful statement.
Bitachon have
mitzvah. Chovas ha-bitachon ba b'psukim harbe, Rabu misfor. The chova, obligation for a person to
connect to Hashem
with trust, comes in a lot of psukim, and it's hard to count. Umish mechaser bo. Here's the punchline. Whoever is lacking in this, aver gedola hi. Amazing. Means if you lack it somewhat, if one lacks bitachon, it is regarded as a great sin.
So
the whole mitzvah of bitachon is something that is intrinsic in a Jewish person's life. Now we know it's a mitzvah. It's brought down. Maybe we'll get to that. So today, but okay, it's a mitzvah. And just 1 second. Okay. There is big inyan regarding bitachon and emunah, but this book is more on bitachon. It's about bitachon. So, yes. Bitachon is not an ordinary mitzvah. Not only is Bitachon a mitzvah in and of it itself, it is actually the most essential of all 613 mitzvahs. The Gemara and Makos states, "Bachavakok behemidon al-achas, shnamar b'tzadik be'emunaso yichya." The prophet Habakkuk came forth and established them, the 613 mitzvahs, upon one mitzvah. All the 613, established them, he established upon one. As it said, Habakkuk, a righteous man lives with emunah.
Yeah.
There it is. The Vilna Gaon in Mishlei, his commentary to Mishlei, writes that this concept of living with emunah is referring to Bitachon. So, Tzadik be'emunaso yichya. That's the pasuk that's going to teach us. A person has to live with emunah, and that refers to bitachon. I didn't give you the option. We might suggest an analogy to a young and inexperienced doctor who has just received his first job to work in a hospital. On his first day, the medical director approaches him and says, "If you are ever unsure about something, make sure you call one of the more experienced doctors for assistance." Several days later, the new doctor is treating a critically ill patient.
I was before.
Although he knows
That he should call for help, he feels uncomfortable about doing so and therefore begins to operate on the patient himself. Unfortunately, the operation is unsuccessful and the patient does not survive. Moments later, the medical director irritably asks him, I'm doing a shiur on a video. I'm doing a video. What were you thinking? Don't you remember what I told you? The doctor sheepishly replies, I did remember. However, I was uncomfortable asking anyone for help. The director shouts, I didn't give you the option to ask for help. I told you that you must ask for help. So too with us. The same is true of Hashem. Not only does He want us to rely on Him, He commands us to commands us to do so. He didn't give you an option that you can try it yourself.
a lot of people
One Islan fall to kochi, go to miyadi, Shalom, and Yitzhak can present himself in ways that make your mind delusional. It makes it. The Yitzhak comes and says, "You're the person. You're in control. That couldn't be farther from the truth." So, Kadosh Baruch Hu is running the show. He doesn't give us an option. You can't say, I'm going to handle it and I'll take care of myself. That's not an option. Because it's sheker. It's simply false. You are living because Hashem grants life. Everything that happens to you is from Hashem chutz mi'yas shemayim. Well, even that might certainly be a little deep. But we have to remember, not only Does He want us to rely on Him? He commands us to do so. Therefore, if one does not have Bitachon, not only is he losing a great opportunity for growth, he's actually committing a great sin. So we see on both sides this is the essential of life. And we should be zocher. To have full emunah and bitachon. Stop here, Beis HaLevi.